Alright, this is a video on analyzing a rental property. I personally use bigger pockets because I suck at math, so I use the rental property calculator within bigger pockets to run numbers on properties that I find. We're going to go back just to show you kind of how they do it. But so when I come across a property and I talk to an owner and they tell me rents and what they want for it and blah 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 blah, I'll come in here and I'll punch it all in and adjust numbers to find out what number works best for me. Pretty much the most I can pay for a property because I want a certain return on the money I put out. So in this case, property, you need property information. You put all that in. Annual property taxes are $1,000 over there. And then you'll come to the second page, punch in. I'm financing my closing costs, so $280 was the original purchase price. I got her to throw in an extra. I threw in an extra $5,000 on the purchase price, so that way I can have $5,000 go towards my closing. So I'm pretty much, instead of paying out of pocket that $5,000, I am financing it over 30 years. So save you some money when you're buying. Keep that money in your pocket to move to the next deal. You scroll down into the details of the loan, interest rates, points charged by lender, amortized over X amount of years. Then you'll come to the last page and punch in the rent. Anything that you pay for as the landlord, I don't pay any of this, but you can put in your insurance, how much it is a month. Property taxes are broken down into a monthly sector. And then I calculate my numbers with I would recommend this for everybody. I know this is how Trey and I do it. We put in 5% for vacancy, 5% for repairs, and CapEx at a minimum 5%. I always run it with a minimum of 5%. This one I had some air conditioning units that will need to be replaced, so I bumped it up a little bit. I'm just kind of going to go under the assumption I'm going to have to replace one a year for the next 4 years. So I upped my CapEx a little bit to cover the cost of that, to make sure the numbers still work. Let's say you got a roof going bad and air conditioning units and 2 hot water heaters. Those are expensive too. We might put like a 12% CapEx in here to cover the cost of all that shit. So CapEx will vary. And then Trey puts 10% in his management because Trey will kick these off to management at a certain time. So if you plan on doing the same, you got to run numbers with management factored in. I plan on kind of doing my own property management, so I don't run them with that. I will kind of develop my own property management in-house. And a lot of people like to put in here like, annual growth. I don't do that because I do it for my lender because it makes shit look nice to my lender. But I just I don't say that the rents are going up right here. I don't say that the property value is going up. I just leave it blank. That's just me. So we're going to calculate the results and see what it spits out. So when I first started buying houses and got into it, I ran numbers based on cap rate. Now that is not, to me, from what I've learned, and I'm just a beginner. I really don't know everything, not even close. But for me, I don't really look at cap rate anymore. I used to look at it pretty hard, but I've found out some better ways to look at how a property will perform. So I look at two things. So does Trey. So we look at the cash on cash ROI, and we look at the 2% rule. And those two things are pretty damn good indicators of how that property will perform. The cash on cash is probably my favorite. The next would be the 2% rule. And both Trey and I try to shoot for about 1.25. This one actually falls short, but my cash on cash return is there, and I'm happy with the cash flow. So to me, it was still a good purchase. On the left-hand side here, you'll see the breakdown of how much it'll cost to close and and so on and so forth. I'm not really going into that. I'm just kind of going over how I analyze them. Another thing some people look at is gross rent multiplier and 50% rule. I don't care for them. If you're into that, you can do your own homework. I'm not really going to go over those. But anyway, those are different ways to analyze a property. Like I said, I'm looking at the cash on cash return and the 2% rule. So in a stock market, people get most people say a standard. If you put money into some mutual fund, it'll grow at a rate of 7% over an extended amount of time. So if you base it on, let's say, at 10%, let's say you could get 10%. Well, 20%. I mean, that's double. That's double what most people are shooting for in the stock market. So I'm pretty cool with that. Not to mention you're paying down your property. You have tax write-offs. So in the stock market, you're paying taxes on that. And with rental property, you've got enough deductions to show losses. So there's a lot of other reasons I prefer real estate. But anyway, um, this is a 20% cash on cash return. So monthly income is at $3,200. My monthly expenses are $1,900 a month. So the difference between income and expense is about $1,300. So that is my cash flow every month. Um, if you scroll down to here, you can see that I'll put numbers in here as well for vacancy, right? We put in at 5% for vacancy, 5% for repairs, and at 7% for the CapEx. So these are all included. All this is included into your monthly expenses. So it's saying every month it's going to cost me $160 for repairs, $224 for CapEx, and $160 for vacancy. Now, how you save that money on the side for when those issues occur is on you. Everybody's going to do that different. Um, but let's just say you have a really good month, right? Well, that's 5%, 5%, another 7%. Well, that's 17%. Let's say you have a damn good month and nothing breaks and you have no expenses. You might get a 38% return now. Pretty damn solid if you ask me. But just in case, those numbers are always factored in. So if you do spend the money, if you spend this entire 320, 550 bucks pretty much, you can spend $550 and still cash flow that. So that's why we run those numbers built in like that. Now, if we had property management, it would build them in here as well. But anyway, so it could potentially be a 38% return, but you have to factor in maintenance. It's gonna happen whether you want it to or not. So anyway, that's kind of how I look at things. I look at a cash on cash return and the 2% rule. Kind of think that's it. Now, I did bring this up just to show you some things that I look for when doing due diligence on a property. You want to get, when you talk to an owner about buying a house, you want to get some information so you know what people are paying in rent, what things have been fixed, what insurances. You want to know what it's gonna cost to operate that property. You want to know all these things before you go. Well, let's say you went under contract. You got some of this information and you went under contract. They have to release all this information. So if you ask for it, if they've got it, they have to give it to you, because this is all going to go in to whether or not you're going to buy that house. Because let's say the property taxes are crazy, it's a freaking terrible flood zone, and there's a whole bunch of deferred maintenance. Well, that is going to increase all of these costs. It's going to increase this vacancy and repairs and property insurances. It's going to increase all that. So that deal might not be a good deal anymore. So you have to find out that information. So I'll put out a list. You can pause it whenever, if you want, write this shit down. These are the things I look for, and some other, after talking to people, these are some common things at a minimum to look for or ask for when buying a property. You want the current leases to verify rent. You want to make sure that, oh yeah, I'm getting $4,000 a month in rent. Well, you want to make sure, you want to see the leases that are signed and current, saying these people are renting these properties for, let's say it's a double and they're paying $2,000 a month. You want to get the leases so you can verify that, and you don't want to trust the owners. And remember this, when you're buying a property, the real estate agents and the owners are going to they're going to make that property look way better than it is. So they're going to be blowing smoke up your ass. Get all this information and do your own due diligence. Don't trust what they're telling you. So you want current leases, you want a profit and loss statement or a T12. T12 is a trailing 12 months of expenses. It's the same thing as a P&L, but it's T12 is pretty much real estate strictly. P&Ls can be for any business, but you want to get at least a year's worth of profit and loss statements or T12, the trailing 12 months. You want a year of that at a minimum. I ask for 3 years. Most of them don't have it, but I ask for 3 years because I can track the income and expenses on that property for 3 years, and I can see if those are consistent numbers. I can see if you know if the maybe he didn't have it rented for 6 months, whatever, or he spent a lot of money repairing one of the units. But you can see all those things, and you want that because you can verify income and expenses. You want any contracts they've got for reoccurring services, such as if they've got a termite inspection they do annually, or a grass cutting that happened, bi-weekly. That's going to all go into your numbers as well. So you want to be able to afford those things. So you have to, you want to get these termite contracts, and if the dude's cutting grass for $30 every 2 weeks, you want to get all that information. If the owner pays the water, if the landlord pays the water, you want a copy of the water bill because that's an expense for you, and you want to know what you're going to be paying for that. Flood elevation. You need the flood elevation or the deck page of their flood insurance. Both of those will give you the flood elevation, which will determine how much your insurance is going to be. If you're a flood zone X, you're going to be paying it's not expensive. If you're an AE, you're going to be paying a lot more for flood insurance. You want to know their homeowner's insurance. What are they paying for hazard insurance on the property? You want to know the age of the roof. Do I need to repair it? Is it just replaced? Age of the air conditioning systems. Is the house raised? Is it a slab or is it pier and beam? How old are the hot water heaters? Those little bastards get expensive too. So you want to know like the age of the roof, AC, water heaters. You want to know those things because those are expenses that you might come into when you buy the property. What if the roof starts leaking, the air conditioning goes out, and a hot water heater springs a leak? Well, that's a lot of cost to you. So you want to, you just want to find out the age and the condition. Now, yes, the inspection, you'll go through and check all that stuff, but it doesn't hurt to ask up front. Under slab plumbing, most of them probably don't have a clue what's going on with it, but just plumbing in general, do you have a lot of like drain lines clogging, stuff like that? Yeah, well, I had, let's just say like I had a snake the line out 3 or 4 times last year. That could be an issue. Now, could it just be a tenant flushing shit down the sink? Yes, but it could also potentially be under the slab issues, and that is a lot of money. I put in here to find out any liens on the property. Now, that's something that as soon as the contract is sent to your title company, they're going to start pulling the abstracts and checking for liens and things like that. So that's not really on you. If you wanted to do it before you went on a contract, check with your title company. And if you work with them a lot, they might be willing to run a property, run a title on a property, check for liens and stuff on it, just to make sure. Aluminum and copper wiring. You want to know what the house is wired with because aluminum, if you tear more than, I think it's 50% of the walls out of an apartment one day, let's just say you're doing a renovation, if you open up more than 50% of the walls, you are required by Jefferson Parish to go back with copper wiring. Well, now that's another big expense. Plus, these are built in the early 70s and shit. A lot of them do have aluminum wiring. Some of them have aluminum wiring with copper piggybacks or whatever they call them, pigtails. It's kind of a part of it. It is what it is. Aluminum can be known for fire hazards, but you want to know what kind of wiring you got in that property. Also, you want to know, ask them if the house is on breakers or fuses, because if it's fuses, you got to replace it. You got to upgrade the breakers. You want to know the flood zone. Now, that'll probably come with the flood insurance right here. It'll be on the deck page. Any other repairs that they've done, I replaced a couple doors, I put new floors in this apartment, things like that. If they've got a land survey, it's not critical, but if they've got one, you might as well get your hands on it. So you've got one moving forward. You need to know the property taxes. That's all part of running your numbers on a house. You need to know the property taxes, and then receipts for anything major that they've replaced. And take us, you don't have to do all this shit, but I mean, I do all this every time I go under, I do all this before I go under contract. The only thing a lot of people won't be willing to release that I've noticed, um, they'll get hesitant with the leases. They might get hesitant with that's pretty much it. That's like the only time. That's the only thing I've ever had pushback on is they don't want to give me the leases until we're under contract, which is technically the right way to do it. It's actually illegal to give these out before, but I mean, it's not like you're going to take it and spread their information all over the internet. So, um, just something to think about.